If you like what you hear on the podcast today, or even if you don't, be sure to let us know about it.
Please like, comment, and share on any podcast platform you're listening on right now.
We are here at Pythian Castle in Springfield, Missouri. Coming up next week, we're going to Devil's Elbow. We always talk about, you never want to do an outside investigation, and you especially never want to do an outside investigation in the summer because there's going to be bugs, and so we're going to have all that. But we're going to get on that bridge, and there's some woods nearby, and if everything goes right, Ty will see a fucking Bigfoot.
But he won't believe it.
No, he won't. He'll say that's a guy in a ghillie suit.
Yeah, I'm going to go and pull on that thing's hair. I'm going to show you.
But anyway, we're going to do that next week. Every now and then we forget to do things like,
Mention our website?
Yeah.
MWGhostHunters.com.
Yeah. We forget to do that, and we forget to solicit people to get a hold of us if they have any paranormal stories, questions, or anything regarding, paranormal activity at all. We forget to ask people, get a hold of us because we will talk to you on the podcast about that, and you can just ask your questions, right there. We finally did remember, and we got contacted by David. David, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. David lives in West Virginia. Where are you in West Virginia again?
I'm in Parkersburg, West Virginia.
Parkersburg, and you said that's about an hour away from Point Pleasant?
Yes.
Okay. Point Pleasant, our listeners are at least familiar with, and I know I am. I've been there. I was there about was that a year ago or two? Nah, I can't remember. But I went to the Mothman Museum and to the bridge, the famous bridge there. Where the Mothman thing was supposed to have happened, because I was already in Ohio. And it's like, hell, Point Pleasant's just an hour and a half away. I'm going. So anyway, went down to the museum. It was pretty cool. But anyway, you got in touch with us because you had a story and some questions regarding the paranormal. So what happened with you?
Here's what happened. Years back, I worked at a nursing home in Marietta, Ohio, which is about 15 minutes from Parkersburg because we are right on the Ohio border.
Okay. I may have gone right through
there. Basically what happened, I worked at the night shift continuously. We worked a lockdown unit for Alzheimer's dementia patients.
Okay. Are you like a nurse? Were you a nurse's aide or?
Yes, I was at the time.
Okay.
I worked with the same, I'll say nice older lady. She had worked there 35 plus years. She was like your stereotypical grandma, just very nice, down-to-earth woman. But our lockdown unit, it was basically just a long hallway. And on the left side, we had our own television room, big open room. And on the right side, we had our dining room. And our unit was actually locked down. It had double locking doors at the end with a keypad where you had to enter a code.
Right.
So basically the residents could live their life, get up, walk around, do what they wanted, but they couldn't get out.
Yeah, for people listening, as a PT who works in these facilities, I'm very familiar with them. For people listening, these memory care units are for people who are elopement risks, people who are at risk of possibly leaving the facility and harming themselves by walking into the interstate or wherever. So, that's why we call it a lockdown unit, because it keeps people safe. They can't leave that wing. Okay, go ahead, David. Sorry.
Yeah, it was just because most of the people we had were flight risk, and I'll preface with saying most of our residents were pretty elderly. 95% couldn't get up on their own. During the night shift, there always had to be two people because, as you probably know, people with dementia or Alzheimer's can get a little violent when they get confused. So we always work two people at a time.
Especially you night shifters, because you get all the sundowning.
Yes, but this was around 2 a.m. in the morning, and how our nurses station was laid out, it was a patient's room. And up in the corner, we had a closed-circuit television loop, and it showed up on TV screen, and it would shoot towards the door, and it would shoot down the other hallway. It would shoot to the TV room, then it would shoot the kitchen on about a minute loop, about 15 seconds per camera shot, just so we could monitor things.
Right.
And the door to get in, it beeped into our office, and it beeped very loud to let you know somebody was punching the keypad.
Okay, this is the door to enter the main wing, the memory care unit. Okay.
Yeah, so we always knew somebody was coming in because it would beep. So me and the woman I was working with was sitting there bored. We'd already checked on everybody. Everybody was good, and we're just staring at the TV screen. Then all of a sudden, we see a solid black figure. It was like a matte black. It wasn't misty, it wasn't foggy or hazy. It was just solid like a person. It took two steps, looked like it stepped over something. It raised its right leg and walked into a patient's room.
That's not good.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
We jumped up because your logical brain tells you, okay, somebody's up.
Right.
Because you don't think about what it could be. So I went the way we saw it. She went the other way. We start checking rooms. All our patients are in bed asleep, completely out. I grew up listening to George Norrie and Art Bell, and I did some later research, and it kind of seems like a shadow person, and I don't even know what that is.
You're saying you don't know what a shadow person is?
Well, I do, but like,
and
yeah,
I'm not mocking you because we don't either. I was just clarifying that that's what you were asking.
Yeah, because that's the closest thing that I could think of what it would be, but yeah, I know we really don't know what that is yet.
I've heard people describe this almost exact scenario also in a nursing, skilled nursing facility.
Tyler had a lot of these stories.
Yeah, well, we all have. Any of us that have worked there, and what a lot of people describe is the figure is, as far as the shadow figure goes, it's not just a shadow; it's just a complete absence of light, like a chalkboard black.
Yes, exactly.
Now, in your email you sent, did you say that the figure was wearing, it looked like a hat?
Yes.
I know this is a silly question, but what kind of hat did it seem like?
It's not like a fedora, but kind of that style with like the more flat brim all the way around.
Yeah.
That looks like one of them from the photo that
we've seen something like that before.
We actually have a picture, and this is way before the Hat Man creepypasta or whatever the hell that started. Our picture that we have came from way before that whole thing started, and we actually have a photo which I can send to you. You can look at and kind of compare and see if it looks like the thing that you saw.
David, did anyone pass on in the unit that night or days later,
specifically in the room where you saw the thing go into?
No, there wasn't, but something very strange about that place, and you guys will understand this. There was a room, ever since I got there, it was a nice big clean room that nobody ever used. Like, there was never a patient in it. And I remember asking why, and everybody told me they moved somebody in, within 2 weeks they die.
Oh, I've heard of this in facilities where they're afraid to put a person in a particular room because of the bad history of that room. I've heard that in several facilities, actually.
Because I was there, I went to a local hospital, took a job at a local hospital about 6 months later. I was there a total of about 7 months, and there was never a patient in that room. And I always figured in the healthcare field, they would want that revenue.
Well, that's what I was saying. As you were talking about this, I was sitting here thinking, the corporate owners there really, they don't give a shit. About that. They want to fill the place up. They want census.
Did the people, David, and you may not even know this, did the people all die of heart attacks, or was it the same type of cause of death of everyone in the room, or just death would occur?
I think death would occur. Nobody ever actually told me the exact reason, but the woman who I worked with, like I said, she'd been there 35 plus years because she lived like 3 doors down from the facility. And she's the one who was telling me that they'd put them in the room, and within a few weeks they would pass.
I know there was one facility I used to go to all the time, and I still occasionally do, where anytime they would get a new patient in, and they would go in this one particular room, all the therapists and nurses would be like, uh-oh, that ain't good. Just because there was some kind of bad, omen about a particular room. And, most of it is just bad feeling and superstition, or maybe there's something to it. I don't know. But I want to circle back around to the figure that you saw, because we know someone who worked in a skilled nursing facility, and we've talked about this on this podcast before, who saw something similar. And I may be mixing stories up, but when she saw at the, remember when the figure came into the facility and walked down the hallway, and they called the police, and the police said the front door had never been opened because there were leaves piled against it and all that stuff. Was it a robe? That's what I was trying to think of. Was it a hat, a robe? I can't remember.
I can't remember either. But
I think it was.
There's two separate incidences for me with that, because there's that one And then there's another one at where I'm currently at,
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah.
where 2 people saw it at the same time.
Okay, and what did yours look like?
David and listeners, just to catch you up, Tyler also works in these facilities as well. So the three of us have that common link. Go ahead, Ty.
What the 2 people saw that were at the building I'm at now was almost exactly what you guys were just describing, a tall black figure with a hat. And it went into a room. They were walking down the hallway. It went into a room, and then they continued walking down the hallway, and they turned to look in that room, and it was empty. Our guys checked the camera, and they didn't see anything, but I'll have to ask them again. I
David,
can ask them tomorrow.
Did with your situation, and then I'll go the same thing with Ty. After you saw this thing, did anything? Obviously, seeing something that's not there is a huge deal. Did anything change in the facility? I'd ask about someone passing away. You said no. Was there anything that occurred after the appearance of this figure that had not prior?
And has that figure appeared since that you know of?
Nothing was really different, but other people had reported seeing different things throughout the facility. I know in the email I sent you, the original nursing home up in Marietta was built in the 70s, and it caught on fire, and 21 of the 27 patients living there died.
Oh, my God.
Jesus.
Somebody had lit a cigarette and threw it in the trash can,
That sounds right.
Yeah, that's
and
accurate.
it started smoldering, and they thought it would go out, and they mainly died of smoke inhalation.
My God, that's awful. And they rebuilt this. Are you saying they rebuilt this facility?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, on the same property. It was kind of just a little bit in front of the original nursing home, but it's the exact same property.
Damn, that's insane. What was it, John, you were going to ask Tyler based off that? I missed that part.
I
Sorry.
wanted to see if Ty, did anything change at the facilities where when you would see this? We'll just call it the Hat Man, just so we have a name to put behind it. After this figure was seen, did anything change? Did anyone pass away? Did anyone pass away? Did anything else change after this figure was seen at the facilities you were at?
I don't know.
Here's what I can tell you is, in the years before Tyler worked at this particular facility, I used to go there all the time, and the residents would tell me all the time about, these paranormal activity that's happening in this particular facility. There was one resident in particular who had her wits about her. She was sharp as a tack, who would always tell me about, seeing this shadow thing inside that facility. So that one in particular that he works at does tend to have a higher amount than any that I've ever seen or been in, before locally at least.
David, you've had a lot of experience in this healthcare. Have you seen other things at this facility or in the hospitals you were at?
I have seen a few things. I can say their name now since the hospital's no longer there, but it was St. Joseph's Hospital. It was founded by the Sisters of St. Joseph's in the 1800s. And I worked the original part of the hospital, and I worked night shift. You would just see things like move out of the corner of your eye down the original hallways. Tons of people at the place would say they have seen nuns and different things walking around, and a lot of strange things.
That's interesting because there's a YouTube channel called Nuke's Top 5 that Dustin turned me on to, and he did an entire montage of videos that were collected in hospitals. And in one of them, these doctors who were there doing their residency decided for fun, the three of them were going to go in this closed area of the hospital that everybody said was haunted. And they did catch a video that scared the shit out of them, of what looked like a nun. It scared the shit out of me watching it too. Now, of course, with Nuke's Top 5, when you watch that, he does give the caveat, the disclaimer that, I can't say that these are 100% real. It sure seemed real to me. And a lot of these hospitals are, like you said and know, founded by nuns. So, I know almost every hospital worker that I've ever came in contact with, you, David included, have some kind of story about something they've seen, usually after dark, in the hospitals. Now, in your email you sent, you said, and we may have hit on some of these, you said you had some questions too. And if you do, I want to set the, lead into that by saying what we say to everybody who has paranormal questions for us. We don't always know the answer, but we can do our best to give you an answer based upon our experience. So did you have some questions related to, what you saw?
Like it's comforting knowing some other people have seen like the shadow creature, and the ones you spoke about, was that a side profile that was seen, or was it front on? Because I've heard of like the red eyes on a Hat Man, but we saw nothing like that. It was just solid black.
Ty, can you answer that?
For the one that our guys saw, they saw him from the back and the side.
I know
think.
for every shadow figure that we have a picture of, have seen, or have gotten reports of, I've never heard of red eyes.
I remember hearing it or seeing it on some television shows and I think on Coast to Coast, where some people said it had the red glowing eyes, but I don't know if...
That's one thing, and maybe there's something to the red eye thing, but that's something that always drives me nuts when I watch paranormal shows, whether it's ghosts, cryptids, or anything, is they always throw in the red eyes thing, and it feels like they throw that in to make it more menacing. It's like, hell, you don't need to make it more menacing.
Well,
it's a fucking shadow figure.
Yeah, but they're after the Hollywood effect for that.
So nothing that we have seen or heard of as far as actual shadow figure reports have ever had the red eyes. I would think what it sounds to me like what you saw is the real deal, because that sounds like pretty much every report we've ever heard, as far as I can remember.
Yeah.
And I can tell you this, the funny thing was it wasn't scary at the time because your logical brain is telling you everything else. This is a person.
Oh, sure.
Somebody's in here. The funny part is I remember afterwards, we always had two people there. I told the woman I was working with, I'm going to run out to the employee fridge to go get a drink. And this was your stereotypical grandma. I've never heard this woman cuss. But she looked me dead in the eyes and said, fuck that, you're not fucking leaving me here.
Yeah. Hell yeah, man. I mean, that's a real response there.
Yes.
Did you have any other questions, David, that we might be able to hit upon? We might not, too.
I have another quick one because I consider myself a believer and a non-believer. If you can convince me, I don't even know, what ghosts are, if ghost is a thing, if it's something from another dimension, with it stepping over something on the floor that wasn't there.
And that's a good question, because that leads you to believe, or that leads you to start looking into possibly, could this be some kind of residual type thing? Now, I don't know if you know what I mean when I say that, but a residual, type energy or haunting is something where, what you see is not necessarily an actual person doing that at that moment. It's a moment in the past that is like caught on a time loop that'll occasionally, cross into the spectrum that humans can see, or a camera in this particular case. I'll give you an example of that. This is the example I always give. Is there was a paranormal group that did an investigation of a home that was having activity, and the people who lived in the home said that they were seeing the ghosts, but they were only seeing them, it looked like they were walking on their knees. They can only see them from the knees up. So this group did an investigation, and they come to find out when they did a history of the house, the floors in that house had been raised 18 inches. So what they were actually seeing was the ghosts walking on the original floor and, not on the new floor that have been built since. And that in that instance would be what we call a residual type haunting or energy or whatever you want to call it, where, he's actually seeing something that happened once upon a time. Those spirits, ghosts, whatever you want to call them, aren't actually there. It's just pretty much the leftover light energy or whatever you want to call it that keeps replaying itself. And that could be, when you talk about a like what you saw, where something seems to step over something that's not there, that does lead you to wonder, was this a residual from a visitor from years ago who's stepping over a rubber glove or tissue that was dropped in the hallway, So that is a good question, and we obviously don't know the answer, but it does lead you to kind of head down that road a little bit.
Another thing you will find interesting, I know how much you guys like the mountain monsters. I do know all those guys.
Oh, you do? I love mountain monsters. Now, everybody here, if you listen to our podcast, we're brutally honest. I'm the only one who loves mountain monsters, and I love it for its entertainment value. So
I think if you look at it from an entertainment value, the guys put on a great show. That's what they do.
So when you say those guys, like the characters on the show, like Huckleberry and all those guys?
Yeah, I've met them, and
look, that's pretty cool to me.
Yeah, they borrowed a friend of mine's boat for one of the episodes.
I was just going to say, when I watch Mountain Monsters, I watch it in the same way back when me and John were little that we watched WW. Back then, it was WWF Wrestling. Now, we're watching it knowing...
Yeah, we knew for a fact
that
Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant were not really fighting.
I mean, those dudes would go out and have beer afterwards together. But, in the ring, they're at each other's throats. And I kind of watch Mountain Monsters with the same eyes. And I don't know what you know, and I'm sure there's non-disclosure agreements anyway, but as far as, I'm not even going to get into whether the show is real or not. It's entertainment value for me. You may have heard that we did a video, of ourselves watching an episode of Mountain Monsters, and these guys had never seen it before, so they got to see, an episode. I think it was the Woman in the Woods episode for the very first time. And I will say, when I was at Point Pleasant and I went to the Mothman Museum, this is all the shit that Ty loves. There was signed pictures of the mountain, of many of them, hanging up inside the museum there. So anyway, I think that's pretty cool. Do you know the guys like? What's that?
You guys can hang it up. I'll send you a signed picture.
That's awesome. Send it in. I'll hang it. Yeah, I'll hang it right up.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. He actually knows him. They used his boat.
Yeah. What were they? So in the episode, and this is getting off on a side thing, but on the episode where they borrowed your boat, do you remember what that episode was? What they were quote unquote looking for?
Well, it was a friend of mine. They were looking for some. It was like a creek monster or something crazy.
I remember a couple of river episodes. I just can't remember what they were looking for.
One of the main guys on there, how I met him and know him, is he runs a flea market booth.
Which one?
Jeff Headley is the man with the, not Trapper, the guy with the long white beard.
Oh, Jeff,
yes.
Right? Okay, yeah. Jeff's the one who's always falling down.
Yes.
Jeff's down.
For years, he runs a flea market booth.
Yeah.
That's his main job.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I know that Huck was, he's a jarhead, and so is what's the other guy? The guy who the real hillbilly dude. Hell, I can't. Wild Bill. Wild Bill. There's Wild Bill, and I know those two guys were Marines, and then Buck was I think security guard or police or something, but I didn't know what. No, Buck's lost a lot of weight, but I don't know what. I didn't know what Jeff did. So that's interesting. It's interesting to me that you know those guys. I didn't even think about asking that whenever you told us your proximity to their filming location. It's funny.
Another very interesting thing about Parkersburg. I'm sure you guys know about the whole Indrid Cold, the UFO abduction that kind of started with the Mothman.
Oh, yes.
That happened here in Parkersburg.
Oh, that's okay. Cool. That's starting to ring a bell. I don't know if I'm making myself make that association now, or if
it was a vacuum cleaner salesman that was driving down the highway, and the UFO flew over his vehicle, and the person who stepped out said his name was Indrid Cold, and said he would communicated with him for years.
They did.
And it has a tie-in with Mothman.
Yes, they did an episode. I think it was Paranormal Witness about this.
Yes.
So that, there's a lot of stuff happening there in Appalachia, huh?
Yeah, because Parkersburg originally, because we're on the Ohio River, the moniker was it was the wickedest city on the entire Ohio River. We had the most gambling establishment and brothels.
Okay, so those kind of areas, kind of like the Wild West, have a lot of
very much so.
Yeah. So is this town? What is it? What is the town's name again? I'm sorry.
Parkersburg.
Parkersburg. Is that between Columbus and Point Pleasant?
No, we are. Point Pleasant would be like an hour west of me.
Okay. Because I'm making myself in my head think I went through there whenever I went to Point Pleasant. Hell, maybe I did. I don't remember. But here's what I do know, and it's unfortunate that Dustin is not here today. But here's what I do know: we have someone from the West Virginia/Ohio area, and I have to ask: have you ever seen Bigfoot?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I find it interesting, but I've spent hours and days in the woods. But I've never.
Statistically, if Bigfoot was out there, it seems like David here might have caught a glimpse.
He knows
I saw 6 bear in one day ginseng hunting, and that's a rare sighting, but no Bigfoots.
Okay. Did you have any other questions related to your about anything really while we got you on here before we got to scoot?
No, I can tell you one more real quick story if you'd like.
Sure.
We'd love it.
All right. Later on, I've worked in chemical plants now for years. I switched careers. I got my chemical degree. I consider myself a very rational, smart person.
Sure.
My last plant that I was at, it was a small plant, helped build it. There was 2 of us working at night. There was a total of 4, but me and a buddy of mine who worked there, we had to go across the road to the other part of a plant and do some lab samples. And we walked in. We knew where everybody was at because we left them in the other part of the plant. And we walked in the door, and over top you walked into a warehouse, but the left side was offices, and it had like a floor above the offices up there, so like storage area. They keep paper and cups and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we walked in, and there's a metal rack right in the middle that held mail and stuff like that, or they'd bring in parts and set it on there. He went to the left side of it. I went to the right, and it was only about 4 foot apart. And I heard something talking, like at least 4 or 5 syllables up top of that floor up there. And I looked at him and I said, huh? Because I thought he was talking to me. And at the same time, my friend looked at me and said, huh? He's like, what? Like, we both said at the exact same time. We thought each other was talking to each other. So we both go up there thinking, well, maybe somebody broke in. It was that clear. We went up, turned the lights on, went up there, nothing.
Did that ever happen again?
It happened numerous times because we had some equipment over there. We had like a small test facility set up, and you just run it by yourself, and you would hear it sound like distant talking, like it would move around, and you would just hear all kinds of things.
Yeah, that's bizarre. Unless there was some kind of ventilation, carrying voices from another part of the facility. I mean,
well, there was nobody else in that whole building.
Nobody else there. Damn.
Yeah, the back part of that building was our shipping and receiving, and it was only a daytime operation.
Gotcha.
And with only 4 of us being there, we knew where everybody was.
You could have stumbled onto something there as well. I think my advice to you at this point would be to get you a job during the day.
Yeah.
Because
have you always had paranormal activity stuff like this your whole life, or did this only start when you were working these jobs at these off hours?
Yeah, I never really had anything. I was kind of born into like a hardcore religion where there wasn't paranormal. There was angels and demons.
Right.
But
Yep.
I always listened to Coast to Coast growing up, and it kind of opened my eyes to a few more things. And I never looked for anything. I found it interesting, but I didn't go out and look for anything. It just kind of happened.
Yep.
Have you ever had any activity that you've seen in healthcare or in your other areas that have happened during the day? Have all of the things been at night?
I think even at the hospital, like during the day, you'd still see things out of the corner of your eye. It looked like they're moving down the hall, or it's something fleeting there that would disappear.
I think it's kind of like we've talked about on this podcast before regarding schools. I think it does happen during the day and night, but I know like hospitals and healthcare facilities during the day, they're like Grand Central Station. It's harder to pick up on it than it is at night.
And I think one last question I have for you, if that's all right.
Yes, sir.
I've listened to all the episodes. You was talking about the Mars Hill Cemetery.
Yeah.
Do you believe if whatever a haunting is, that cemeteries would be haunting? Because my opinion is that if you died, why would
I know what he's going to say.
Or whatever hang around a cemetery?
Well, we've talked about that before, and it's kind of the same thing, because that doesn't make sense to us either. And here's another thing that doesn't make sense to me. Talking about hospitals. You talk about, a maintenance worker or a janitor who's worked in the hospital for 50 years and he died and he's still seen there. Why the hell is he still working at the hospital, dude? It's time to rest. So the same thing kind of goes in my mind with cemeteries. You're buried there unless you're quote unquote, like they say, stuck there.
I think I thought about this, while I was getting ready for an episode that we're going to be doing next week. Over the weekend, I was going through a ton of EVPs. One of them I went back through. I found the EVPs that I actually caught at Mars Hill, and there's some.
Oh, you found those?
I found them.
Oh shit!
And it's I don't have them on that one on what I gave you, but
right.
I've got them. And one of those things, I don't even know if I even really brought that up on the podcast. Dustin and I were there, and we asked about a name, and we get some sort of a response. Dustin and I were there. What I'm wondering is, I wonder if we're assuming this is people that are buried there. What if that's a caretaker? What if that's somebody who mowed the lawn? Somebody who was out there that's where their life was at.
It could be. I mean,
what if it's something like that?
We got a response on a death date, too.
Oh, that's right. Whenever me and Tyler and Dustin went there the first time, years ago, we like said, what year did you die or something? And we got a date. So I don't I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make sense that, you pass away and then now you're just stuck hanging out in a field full of headstones.
Right.
But for whatever reason, people do. And we caught a picture at Mars Hill too. Remember, it wasn't a picture of a person, but it was that weird light, that pointed light that was over one of the headstones.
And Dave, what I think it is too is it's kind of like people automatically assume that a funeral home is haunted. I think it's kind of a cool effect that people have. They want to associate that because there are decedents, there are people that have passed on bodies in this area. I think people naturally make that connection, and maybe they shouldn't, but I think that's why.
Well, and one of the most famous, ghost pictures ever taken in the history of, human life is a picture that was taken like in the 1880s. It was when cameras were first, coming around. It was a picture taken of that someone took of their loved one's cemetery, and there is a person sitting on the headstone. That's a very famous, photograph. So in short, to answer your question, we have no fucking clue. It doesn't make sense to us either. It's just like we said whenever, people are like, oh, the old, old Henry, the blacksmith, he's still, working here in this, even though we've turned it into, a general store. It's like, why? He needs to stop working. It doesn't make sense to spend the rest of eternity working, whenever you're dead. But anyway, I don't know. This is one of those things that cross into us trying to answer it, but we have no earthly clue, because it sounds like from what you described about yourself, you're similar to us. In that, you have a science background and you try to be logical and rational, and that's what we try to do as well. And it doesn't make sense. So as far as the rules of ghosts or whatever they are in paranormal, we don't know them yet.
It makes total sense what you're saying about their job might be connected or this. West Virginia, we have a ton of very old homes up these hollers and hills and stuff like that people built with their hands.
Yep.
They probably built half their furniture in the house. I can see logically people being connected to that because that was them.
Sure.
Yeah, I always give the example of my dad who worked as a veterinarian his entire life. His entire being was wrapped up in that job. He retired at noon on Saturday. He died Sunday morning just a little after 7 a.m. He had no existence outside of being a veterinarian. So I think I think in situations where somebody has an identity that's so wrapped up in something like that, I think that would be a more likely connection for me.
Yeah, that's actually a good point that I hadn't thought about, because we've talked about that, and your dad in particular.
Yeah.
That his identity really was, and that's the way he wanted it.
Yes, yeah.
A lot of us don't want our identity wrapped up in what we do, but he did.
To share something here a little bit more, even at his viewing, my mom had him dressed in the exact white T-shirt and jeans that he wore every single day.
Every day.
I mean, every day. I mean, to the point to where when if you ever saw him outside of that, he looked weird.
I know. I remember whenever we would go, quote unquote, somewhere to fancy or somewhere to eat or something, he'd wear like a polo. It's like, that didn't even look like him.
No, it didn't. It didn't even look like the guy. It didn't even look like him, because every day he wore jeans and a white T-shirt, and that is the exact. Now, why you would wear a white T-shirt with the job that he was in?
So John's dad was a farm vet, and he wore white T-shirts that were completely splattered and stained with
I mean, just
cow shit.
Yes,
and
the whitest T-shirt you could get, and you get blood and everything else all over it.
So maybe, with people like that, it does make a little more sense that they want to continue, what made their identity, for eternity or whatever. But the rest of that, we have no earthly clue, dude. If you find the answer, let us be the first to know.
I'll tell you, if you guys ever make it to West Virginia, we could always go see the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. We do have that in the state.
That's like
that would be amazing.
Waverly and Trans-Allegheny are two of the those. For people who are actually, in the paranormal field like we are, those are the golden geese right there. So yeah, absolutely. If we're in that area, we will let you know. It's like, dude, We're going to
meet Dave.
We're going to meet you at Trans-Allegheny. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about an hour and 15 minutes, and Moundsville State Penitentiary is about an hour. It's a very...
Yeah, your area there is just chock full of this kind of stuff. I mean, even areas there where you are, where there's no structures at all, there's certain plots in the Appalachian, mountains and woods where there's all kinds of activity reported. And I'm not even talking about Mothman specifically. There's other stuff out there too. So yeah, absolutely. If we head east, you're going to be the first one that we get in touch with.
Sounds good.
You got anything else for us today, David?
I don't. I really appreciate you guys, and I'm excited to continue to keep listening.
All right, man. Well, we appreciate it. Hey, thank you so much. Tell everybody in West Virginia we said hey, okay?
Will do.
All right, man.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, man.
That was pretty cool.
It was. It was neat.
That was cool because I know you guys probably don't think so, but his Mountain Monsters association, there is pretty. I should have known. I mean,
rewatched our video too.
Yeah,
I literally a couple nights ago, I did not expect him
our
to
Mountain
say
Monsters
that.
thing. Yeah,
it was still funny as fuck. We're gonna have to publish it privately.
We'll put it up on the website. But here's the deal. Here's the thing, though. It sounded like David kind of knows, the deal with Mountain Monsters.
Of course he does. He knows those guys.
Because he was talking about these guys by their actual names, not their character names.
Well, and the thing is, too, I mean, as content creators, I think those guys are great. For what they're going out and they're creating content that people are consuming. And I think if you look at it from that standpoint, they're doing a good job.
Well, and the funny thing is, in Andrew and my son's age group, 18, 19, 20-year-old boys, there for a period of time, about a year and a half, Mountain Monsters was huge. They would gather and watch this shit and just make a night of it. Not because they're like, oh my God, look,
I remember seeing that. I remember seeing the teasers for this thing, and I remember at the time thinking that has to be fake because there's no way those guys could catch that much stuff.
Well, and like I said, whenever I started watching it in the season 1, they kind of tiptoe into it. It's subtle. In the beginning, because it's like there's a trail cam that'll catch a blurry picture of something, and you're like, damn, that is weird. But then as the seasons progress, it gets a little absurd.
You see the Bigfoot driving the UFO?
Yeah, pretty much. And
it gets a little absurd.
They're getting dive bombed by pterodactyls and shit. But anyway, I always found it entertaining. I think it's funny that David knows some of those guys personally. That was cool. I like talking to him. He sounds kind of like us. He's got a science background and tries to be rational about it.
I need to see if I can. I don't know what they're gonna say. Probably no, but I can see if the people I know want to come on and honestly.
I think that'd be
tell
great.
What they saw, because it's almost exactly that. It's pretty common.
It's in healthcare in general. Hospitals, yeah,
doesn't matter.
Skilled nursing,
home health, even
hospice. They got a bunch.
People had commented on that they had worked in the industry, and they also had stories like what Ty had talked about. Because Ty had talked about, and it wasn't that they saw a lot of it was like you talked about a call light that just kept coming on for no apparent reason.
That's a common one.
Calls to 911.
Yes, yeah, yep. He had talked about that, and I asked Ty at the time. I said, "How is that possible?" And he kind of paused for a minute. And he said, "It's not.
How is any of this possible?"
Well, but I mean, but
it's not.
But I was just trying to think logically, how a room could, and how they could tell what room it came from and everything else.
And one of the times that one of those call lights kept coming off, it was happening on a wing where there was on it not even any fucking electricity. So, how does any of that happen? I don't know. But we ought to take this moment to put a call to action out for any healthcare workers, nurses, whatever you may, nurses, aides, they tend to see a shitload because they're there
if you're
overnight.
In the healthcare industry at all, nurses or whatever they are, we would love to hear your story.
Because these guys are, unlike me and Ty who do, PT, we breeze in and out of places and, we're not there a lot of times. Well, maybe you are at night.
Yeah, fucking I am for some reason. I'm there from crack ass of dawn until 11 p.m.
You sleep too late.
No, not every time.
Yeah. But anybody listening who's got a story, a paranormal story from a healthcare facility of any kind, whether it's hospice or anything like that, get in contact with us. You can email contact@mwghosthunters.com. We'll get in touch with you because I enjoy talking to people like David.
Yeah, I love these stories.
So that's cool. So get in touch with us on the email. It's contact@mwghosthunters.com.
And more Dark Matter next week from Pythian Castle in Springfield, Missouri with Midwest Ghost Hunters.